Hey, we're back like we never left. Yeah. We're going to try to jump right back into it. The technology's a fickle bitch sometimes.
It is.
You know what I mean? So, sorry. Thank you all for sticking with me if you stick with us. If not, then you're going to have to go back and out and listen to us. But we were talking to Micah about... Speaking of technology. Oh, look at you with the segue.
All right, there we go.
We're talking to Micah about how he is using technology and using all of the new age things that are happening in baseball to enhance baseball and be able to take the new stuff and making it, simplifying it for the common day player.
Yeah, I mean that is 100% what it is, because I think people at times get overwhelmed by all of it, and I think our goal and our mission is to take all that information, understand it, but then regurgitate it in a way that's simple and for people to understand. So if someone comes in, let's say like a 12-year-old comes in for an assessment, they're going to go through all the stuff. I'm going to explain everything that's going on to the extent that they would like, because some people come in and it's like, hey, go through it, and at the end just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Some people want to understand every fine detail, and that's the part that I think can really help somebody, because someone can come in and get an assessment and it's like, hey, here's what you need to do like when you go work out. Here's what you need to be doing at home for baseball. And it's things that these kids can take that are actionable to actually get better.
Yeah.
Versus just guessing. And that's what technology allows us to do, is not guess.
Right.
Because we now know exactly what you are doing. And I think the other part that I always want to get across to people too, especially people that are listening or probably have a son, even a daughter, we do some softball stuff. So like, if you're unsure of the bat fitting part of things, this is the only way you can know for sure that your kid's swinging the right bat. And the way we always kind of explain it in an analogy, if you will, if Tiger Woods in his prime came and grabbed my golf clubs, I'm pretty sure he's going to shoot a pretty good score.
Right.
If I took his and went out there, it'd probably take me 9 holes to figure out where the fairway is. Okay? So at the lower levels, those are the kids that really need it more than anything. When we're the MLB guys, we're talking like, I mean, you guys have been through
fine-tuning
it. We're talking fine-tuning things. We're talking like, especially with wood, we're talking about changing handle diameter, barrel diameter, cup depth, like all these little things. We're not talking about going like 2 ounces lighter or heavier, nothing huge. These were like with high school kids or even youth players, it's like they could be in the wrong length, the wrong weight, everything.
Right.
So being able to at least pinpoint that, I mean, game changer.
What are some of the testing stuff that you do to get these, parameter, get the actual baseline testing? Like, what do you do? Like, I know there's testing that these guys have to go through so that you can have a baseline, so that you can have something to work from. Correct?
Yeah. So I mean, we've been at it now for about close to 3 years, and over that time, we've gathered over 500 athletes have come through of all ages. So because of that, we now have enough data to where we can say, okay, these things correlate really strongly to this, whether it's the bat speed, consistency, all these things. So it's like, if you're like, okay, he hits the ball hard, but he just doesn't hit it hard enough. He doesn't do it consistently enough.
Right. We
can pinpoint why that might be, or the reasons why that might be, and can test that. So like, one thing that's super important in hitting, grip strength. Crazy, right? So,
makes sense.
I mean, it's the one thing, touching the bat.
Yeah.
So we should probably know what that is, which one's stronger, which one's dominant, all that stuff. So the little bitty things that they'll go through, just little tests that you wouldn't think of doing every day, that's going to help us know like what bat you should be in, why you might be, like we'll see kids all the time, for example.
Like, what are some of the baseline tests?
Okay,
like,
so like grip strength's one. Yeah. I know for, like, we're talking the assessment, we'll do vertical jump. We'll do two med ball throws, a sit-up and throw, and a chest pass. So we're analyzing the lower half engine, basically, your core engine, like the midsection, and then your chest, your upper body. So we can look at those and say, okay, here, especially for kids, here's one thing, right now, if you have a kid at home, you can do 2-day.
Right. Stronger
core. Every kid under college, except for like really, really good high school athletes, the core is always going to be the lowest score on that test. Because we're like, especially when we start working out, what do we want to do? Bench and squat, lower and upper. But core is always like, it's like veggies. We don't want them.
See, do people not like to do core? I thought people would hammer core.
No. People love an aesthetically good-looking core.
Yeah.
People don't love doing core work.
So that's the other thing to know, too, is, like, when we do this test, like, for example, I don't have a six-pack. That's my wife. She, like, I don't have a six-pack. But guess what? My sit-up and throw is, like, well above MLB average. And that's because, like, I do things functionally when I work out to have, like, I know what we need to work out. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm just saying, like...
Toot toot!
But appearance is not always... these athletes, these prospects come in, and they've got a six-pack, but, like, they don't even know where their pelvis is, like, where their waist is. Like, they don't know how to move their hips correctly, and that's a huge missing link. So we can basically take those three tests, the vertical and the two med ball tests, and predict exit velocity. And then, therefore, because of that, tell you what you can improve to get exit velocity up.
And that was my next question. Is, do you give them – because there's a lot of hitting coaches out there and a lot of baseball people out there that can tell you, hey, this is what you're doing wrong.
Correct.
But they're not very good at telling you how to fix that.
Correct.
So if I came in there and I got an assessment and you said, hey, you need to work on your core strength, or your core strength is weak, or your grip strength is weak, are you going to tell me that and then give me – the way to fix it, or are you just going to say, hey, you need to go do it? Now you're on your own to go fix that.
Right, no,
you know what I mean?
Well, so for us, it's, hey, we'll give you exercises that we know work. The other thing is for me, and this is how I kind of, I guess, see things now too, is if I'm training with somebody, I should be able to go to them. If I'm paying them money a month to work out with them, I should be able to say, hey, I need to have my sit up and throw to this distance, or my vertical up to this many inches. Can you do that? And you give them the time frame, a month, 2 months, and if they can't do it, get a new trainer.
Right.
So that's how it's either that option,
right.
or yes, like we can help build out programs that can help you do that kind of thing.
So you don't do training in house.
So no,
it gives you a plan.
So
not yet.
Yeah. So that's
not yet.
Step. So,
okay.
So that's the next steps. Is obviously we have a very limited bandwidth. It's me on a daily basis, and then the guy that was our founder, Liam Mucklow, he also has a golf business, and he's into a bunch of stuff. So like he's not there day in, day out. So right now we have myself, and over time I think we're going to start adding to that in terms of being able to actually train the people on site.
Now is there certifications that you need to have to be able to be in your position, or is it just the experience of knowing what?
Yeah, so I mean if there's like, let's say high school, college kids that are interested in this kind of thing, like definitely reach out, because we can definitely use just the manpower and hands to help. Yeah. And these are all things that like we can help teach you. Like,
do you do lessons there?
Certified, all that stuff. So, like I'm about to go out for spring training for the minor league guys, obviously, because there's no MLB stuff. But I'll be gone for 2 weeks here coming up, but we'll be back at the end of March. After that, it'll definitely open up in terms of availability to do training and stuff like that.
But you do offer lessons.
Not lessons.
Okay.
Training. Just because like
it's called training.
So yes, we gotta be pretty particular about it. Yeah, very specific.
Yeah.
Just because the way I see it, and like we talked about earlier, I think like you said, there's hitting coaches out there. There's also swing coaches. We try to in a way blend the two, because it's like I need to be able to teach a swing, but I also need to be able to teach a kid how to hit.
Right.
Those are two very different.
And what do you and tell everyone what you mean by be able to hit. It's two very different things, but some people don't understand the difference between them.
Okay, yeah. So, like, a swing is basically if I'm trying to, I want this certain attack angle, and I want my swing to be at this, like, in a certain way. Like, I'm building basically one swing.
Basically how the swing how it looks.
Right. And it shows up in the data perfect every time.
Yeah.
Well, there's a
Ken
difference.
Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the most beautiful swing ever.
Right.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
So, like, you're looking at guys with swings. I think he could hit a little bit, too, though. But,
yeah, I think so.
But, yeah, so, like, nowadays you see it all the time. Like Gallo's a big one, where he has the swing, and if the ball runs into the bat, like great things are going to happen. It's just he doesn't do it frequently enough. So I think he would even agree. He's been in. He's not a hitter. He's a swinger that makes contact and will hit homers. He hits 200 every year, but he hits 40 homers. That's not a hitter. That's a swinger, and I would almost put it as like a long drive baseball player, like the long drive version of a baseball player.
That's a good comparison.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, where like if you look at, like, I think of like obviously we all know DJ real well, LeMahieu. Yeah. That's a hitter.
Yeah.
Okay. He's not going to go up there to try to take a swing, a particular swing. No, he's trying to put a ball in a certain spot, like he's hitting.
Right.
He's, I would say, like a Bregman. Guys like that they're all about contact. They're trying to figure out the way to hit the ball as hard as they can to certain spots.
Trey Morgan,
hitter. Okay, so when we're looking at that stuff, and then you have at times, I think that's kind of, oh, there we go. At times you'll find
what happened?
They kind of just froze there for a second.
Yeah.
We got 2 tech guys in the building.
So at times you'll find the lucky blend. So like here, like I mean Dylan Cruz, it's an obvious one. You get Barry Bonds.
Right.
I mean, like you at times you'll find these guys, and I think it's important to either train both or know how to, because like the way I see it is, if you want the power, that's stuff we can train in the weight room. If I learn how to hit and I'm training the power in the weight room, that power is going to come alongside it.
Right. And part of being a hitter, part of being like hitting is approach goes into that. Mindset at the plate goes into 100%. That. Being understanding what you're trying to do. Right.
A lot of it's stuff that doesn't really require the swing.
Right.
A lot of it's mental. A lot of it's like hand-eye coordination stuff. There's a ton of things that need to be
situational stuff.
Yeah. So like honestly, if someone came in and they're like, hey, like bat speed's pretty good for his age, he just strikes out all the time.
Right.
There's a pretty solid chance they're going to spend a lot of time with us doing stuff with ping pong balls.
I've done it.
You've done it.
Yeah.
Like it starts out just like, can you tap it up and down 10 times? You'd be shocked how many kids can't hit a ping pong ball just straight up and down 10 times. And it's like, but then they wonder why they're striking out everybody. Oh, he's a great basketball player. He's a great football player. Well, those don't require this, like hand-eye coordination. Yeah. That's a big part of hitting. And I think being able to break down those little things is super, super important. Yeah. So
how long does this take?
It's basically
like a consult.
Usually around 2 hours.
Lloyd's been learning a lot from me in here about hitting, and now he's like, oh, maybe that's why I couldn't hit in high school.
Lloyd's making a comeback.
I can hit just fine.
Lloyd was a hitter. He just needs to swing.
I was a hitter. I was not a Joey Gallo.
Yeah. Hey, you're not a swinger. You're a hitter.
I was a hitter.
There you go. He didn't strike out a lot.
Yep.
Only twice. 4 years. Very impressive. And I played every day. Only one yak though.
So we actually have a mutual friend of ours who went in there. Like this is a pretty good example of how you're explaining. Like some kids go in there and they do have a good swing and their bat speed's fine, and you need to help them with the hitting part of the game, not the swing part of the game. We have a mutual friend. Person comes in, swings fine. We needed to struggling a little bit, but. Athletics, everything that you're looking for, especially in that age group of a kid, is there.
Yes.
And the hitting part was missing.
Yep.
And y'all went through him, and he comes out and gets 3 hits the next day because it's talking about hitting, not swinging.
Right. And I think that's where it's important to go through the full thing, especially if, like you said, a case where we're struggling. It's like if we can find something that can make them better right then and there, that's huge. So if we let's back it up a little bit, but the first thing would be the bat.
Right.
So we saw it even at the MLB level. Like we go out there, we work with, we go out to LA and work with Bellinger. So we have Dodgers are one of the teams we have a deal with, and obviously we all know how he did from basically the beginning of the season through September. Right. So we go out there and we end up finding out like shoulder injury, some stuff. Well, we test his grip strength. His grip strength on his bottom hand was like high school level. It was terrible. And we're like, okay, well you're still trying to swing this 34, 32 and a half crazy heavy bat that you swung when you were an MVP. We probably need to change this. So we put him through that. Goes out that night, gets a couple hits. He's like a kid at a candy shop.
Right,
oh, I'm back, whatever. Obviously, the bat helps because it helps him move it better. But the number one thing there, I think, is for that player, it's a reset.
Right.
It's a reset where it's like, hey, it wasn't me as much as like I'm blaming myself and like taking all this.
Right.
I'm like stressing out. He probably wasn't sleeping some nights. Like, because all these.
I've been there.
I know. Being in, like you're in LA, you're Cody Bellinger, and you're like.
Yeah.
But now, like, we can just say like, hey, dude, it wasn't you. Like, here's your bat.
Let him make it reps.
And then all of a sudden, and then he goes to the rest of the.
Naked swings.
Look,
you see, every baseball player she bring it up to, they can relate to that. Tell me, how many times have you done naked swings in the shower?
How about this
shower?
So,
in front of the mirror.
I'm in the mirror. What do you mean? Shower? Nah, I gotta see this thing. The swing, Jesus!
I brought my bat.
The swing.
Let me see this thing moves a little bit.
Let me see how I swing my swing.
Oh my god. No, so funny you say that. My first full season of pro ball, I don't know if this would happen nowadays, but I had an old school hitting guy. He comes in, sits next to me, and he's like, "You're not leaving yet." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Just showered, getting ready to get my stuff on." He's like, "You're not leaving yet. Like, I'm gonna come back and get you. We're gonna hit a little bit." I'm like, "All right." So I'm like, "Okay, well, let me get back in my stuff or whatever." He's like, "You're going to sliding shorts." I'm like, in my slider shorts, like the little tights. That's it. Nothing else, whatever. And he brings me this like, oh yeah. And he brings me this little short bat, this little like a souvenir bat from like up like in the pro shop up there. And he has all these like old like he's like literally rolling up socks from the laundry. Shuts the doors and stuff, and he's like throwing me BP. He's wearing sliding shorts. I'm in sliding shorts. I'm like, what in the hell is going on right now? I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable. And like he's like throwing it to me. He's like, hit him. And I'm like, what? He's like, hit him. And so I'm just like hitting these socks with a little souvenir bat. And he's like, and after like 5 minutes of it, he's like, you thinking about your swing? And I'm like, no, God, like why would I be thinking about my swing? And he goes, there's your problem. He's like, you get up there, you're thinking about your swing all the time. You're trying to do this, do that. He goes, sometimes we just got to be simple. We just got to hit in our underwear. And I'm like,
that makes perfect sense.
And in a way, yes, but I'm like, well, it won't work in the game because they're not going to go out there. Like,
I can't wear
just underwear in the game.
I can't physically go out there. He's like, man, you're thinking too much. And I'm like, you're probably right.
It's hard not to.
And I know
Caddyshack
y'all
you.
know, yeah, no, y'all know me. I think
very
way too
analytically
much about
minded.
everything.
Yep.
It's definitely not a thinker.
Yeah.
Not at all, right? So
No.
that was my big problem, and it kind of that's what clicked for me was like I'm playing baseball now for like to get paid to do it, and obviously not. We all know it's not much, but at the time it's like someone's paying me to go play baseball, and it kind of just like reset. And sometimes we need that. We have all the tech, we have all that stuff in baseball, and at times I think we do a little bit too much of that.
Yeah.
And not enough of like the old school, like, hey dude, like get in there, have fun, clear your head, get after it.
Right.
Naked swing.
Somewhere along the line has gotten kind of lost, if you will, that like the game of baseball, there is situations in the game and you do have to play the game a little bit. And it's kind of going from, just like you said, like what you see a lot of times now, it feels like in the major leagues, it's you're watching the long drive competition and not watching the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No doubt.
And that's technology's fault, because now with all the analytics and all the numbers we're seeing, it's like it's more beneficial for players to hit low 200s as long as they're hitting 30, 40 home runs over the course of a season.
Right.
Well, the problem is those guys then get in the postseason when now like all bets are off. It's like we'll throw you 4 split fingers in a row, or
like
whatever.
Yeah, over the course of 162 games, the home runs are going to play better. But
exactly. But
when you narrow it down,
matters,
no doubt.
And that's why I think if we look at college and pro, that's where things get interesting. I always think about that. It's like I think the college swing and the college hitter is very, very different from the pro hitter.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it'll be interesting to see. And I think that's why at times you get these guys that come out of LSU and all these big schools, and it's like, that guy's going to be a big leaguer like that. Not that easy.
Right.
Yeah. Because the strike zone's different, the game's different.
You play more games.
It's aluminum, there's wood. There's so many different things that play into it. And I think all that stuff needs to be, and kind of this is going full circle into, we've got to analyze every single individual thing. Like the way we treat someone that walks in that's 12 years old is not going to, I mean, we'll give them the same level of service as a pro guy.
Doubt.
But what I'm saying is it's a very different game. It's a different bat. It's a different kid in a different age. That kid's still growing. Like that kid's dealing with stuff that the big leaguers dealing with bills and a family. That kid's dealing with, does that girl at school like me?
Right.
Does she like my Snapchat or whatever? Like,
which one's more nerve-wracking?
And the level of
I don't know. They're both really.
and the level,
you can auto pay bills.
And the level of the actual game too, it's as obvious as it may be, it's just not as fine. So there is, even though you're trying to get things as fine as you can, like what you're going to face is not going to be as intricate. If you will.
No, exactly.
And baseball's, I don't want to compare it to golf, but it's very. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same way.
Yep.
If that makes sense, right? Like it's not like
you have Jim Furyk, who's made millions and millions of dollars with a swing that looks terrible and he doesn't hit it very far.
Right.
He's accurate.
Right.
And you got Bryson DeChambeau, also makes a lot of money. Not very accurate, hits it really far.
Right.
And he's like basically built his swing with tech and all that stuff. There's 2 ways to skin the cat, if you will. And I think in baseball, and that's where we need to take golf, is understanding that is the case. Mm-hmm. There's 2 different ways to go about it, but also, I think, and I'm glad you mentioned golf because I think everybody's trying to compare golf and baseball right now and bring all that, and that's true. There's a ton of similarities. It's just I think we actually need to look at golf not from the tech side of things, but how they treat the athlete. Because we're obviously seeing it in baseball. That was the huge rant at the very beginning. The owners aren't on the player's side. They want them to produce, and then when they do, and even if they do, when they get to contract time, they're going to tell them how terrible they are so that they don't have to pay them.
Yeah.
In a way, they're fighting against each other. The teams are the same way where, like, they're afraid to help guys sometimes because they don't want to make them worse. So the better you're doing as a minor leaguer, probably the less they're going to help you because they're afraid to mess it up.
Right.
Where in golf, like, everything is about what you're about to do and what you're going to do, and your strength coach, your swing coach, everybody's on your side because they all benefit from your success.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not that way in baseball, and that's where things get real messy.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt. It's a fine line that you have to start to try to figure out a little bit, but you know, that's what makes it so difficult.
That's the hard part because you get to the pro level, and you'd think that like the coaching is off the charts because you're a pro and all that stuff, and like
you have more resources here in college than you do in professional baseball.
1,000%.
You know what I mean? Like
not even that. And I think in a lot of situations too in college, you have a lot more people that actually like legit care.
Yes.
Like they're not punching a clock. Like they're there. They care. They care about every swing you take. They care about making sure that when the game time shows up, like you're at your best.
Right.
Some people are kind of punching a clock in pro ball.
Not to mention, I would say in y'all's time, how many different hitting coaches did y'all have in pro ball?
a lot.
A lot.
Every year you get a different one.
Every year,
pretty much
like
like a year. Almost.
Each year that you go out there, from when you step foot in Arizona or Florida for spring training to the end of the year, how many different people were in your ear telling you something about hitting? 10 plus?
Yeah, ton.
So that's every single year, and they're all going to be different too, because guys go to other teams and all that stuff happens.
Teams
and they're all trying to, and that's it. They're different philosophies. And the other problem is you have the one guy that's like, hey, if I can tell him this one thing and he takes off, I can take credit for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part, is because you got all these people telling you stuff, and you never know
what their agenda is.
Correct.
You compared it a little bit to golf, and do you think that baseball might go that way, where they have individualized like coaches with them on the road or with them
I think we're headed that way. I just don't know to what extent.
I don't know if it'll ever get there, just because of the financial side of it.
Yep.
But I do think that there's a good possibility you might start seeing every team with like a swing coach and like a hitting coach.
Yep.
As opposed to just, hey, here's the hitting coach, but he may be a mental guy, or here's the hitting coach, he may be a swing guy, but not really talk the other.
Like if I were a big leaguer and I'm making $10 million a year, I would find a strength guy, I would find a swing or hitting coach, and I would say, you're going to get X amount of my earnings. As long as I produce a certain amount.
The funny part about it is, though, and I guess I think y'all would agree with this too. There's a lot of guys in the game that have that de facto guy that they've been around in their life, whether it's their dad, a coach they've hit with forever, someone that's a hitting coach that they've meshed with really early. Like that kind of is a thing. Yeah. It's just not something that's like looked at as like, this is a necessity. I need to have this. You know what I mean?
Well, and we'll see that. From time to time, you'll get a kid that comes in and you ask the dad, like, hey, like, who else he hit with? Well, he was hitting with this guy, then we were doing this with this guy, and it's like 5 different people. And I'm like, okay, there's problems.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta, like you were saying, it's like a lot of times there's one guy that you always go back to.
Right.
And just talking to guys that are really, really good hitters, they either don't hit with anybody and they just do it all themselves. Mm-hmm. Like Donaldson was a guy who built his swing from, literally has a force plate in his house for golf and uses it to like build his swing.
Right.
And then you have some guys where it's just like, oh yeah, my uncle was a hitting coach for whatever, like when I was growing up, and that's all I talked about. Like Lindor was that way.
Right.
He's like, he's my guy. Yeah. That's it.
It's just a comfortability thing, right? So that hitting is such a when you get to a certain level, everybody can hit. Yeah. Everybody's swing is relatively good, right? And there's that separation part that takes you to the next level. And the separation is what clicks in your head. Who do you talk to that gives you confidence in what you're trying to do? You know, because you could watch me on video and watch my swing. Like today, we hit today. My swing didn't feel great today.
Right.
But for the last 2 weeks, it felt awesome.
Right.
And if you go look at the video, you're like, man, it looks the same.
Right.
But there's something that was a little off, like whether it was balance, whether it was setup, whether it was something that I was thinking about in my head.
Yep.
And to have somebody that you can rely on, that you trust, that you believe in, you call and you say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And they say one thing to you, and in your head it flips the switch, but you go and you do something different on the field, but you're not really doing anything any different.
Yeah.
But it feels different. It doesn't look different, but it may feel different to you, and the results are going to come. That there's a lot to be said about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that's a hard.
I would say there's always like it works when there is that one person that you can fall back on that just knows how you work. They know the little things you do. They know they know your tempo. They know what you look like when you set up. Even if your setup's, like you said, something that to the naked eye you just don't really notice. Like,
right.
But you put side by side, you're like, oh, this is a little bit different, but it can't make that. But it does make that big difference. Like little stuff like that. Like, I guess that goes back to like if you look at the home run derby every year. The guys that are performing in the home run derby has got their older brother, their AA hitting coach,
Their dad.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that's happening. It ain't because they just said like, let me give them publicity. It's the guy they mesh with best.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's what if it's cool keeping this conversation going, I find it fascinating just because of the golf angle where everybody has a legitimate swing coach. Every time in baseball, you talk about hopping around from minor leagues. You could be, balling with one guy's your swing coach. The next year, you're somewhere else. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I was raking.
Yep. I mean, like, could you imagine Justin Thomas hitting on the range before a tournament and some guy walking up to him and he's like, hey, if you just change your wrist a little bit, like right here.
Yeah,
like,
right. That's kind of what they do in baseball.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're at a different park every, and it's like
so baseball and golf. I'm not saying they're the same sport because they're not. Right?
No,
you have a moving baseball,
the same.
But the kinematic sequence.
Kinematic sequence, good for you.
Wow. The kinematic sequence of a golf swing and a baseball swing are very similar.
Very, yes.
Right? Yeah. To where you want to be grounded, you want to have the rotation, everything, all of those things are very, very similar. Now, the difference is you're not using a long of a club, it's heavier in baseball, and the ball's moving. Right? There's obviously different, but the actual mechanics of the actual mechanics of the swing are very, very similar. That's why people always want to talk about baseball and golf and what they're doing with Performance Lab.
It's not necessarily like, I know, yes, mechanics is a word for it. It's how the body moves.
Right.
So a kinematic sequence is the order of operations in which body parts move in the swing.
PEMDAS.
There you go.
What is that?
There you go.
I don't know what it means, but I know it's something.
I don't know what it means.
You were
division, addition, subtraction.
Weren't you? Oh yeah, okay.
What were you gonna say?
No, it said I don't know what it means, but yeah, that's it.
So you gotta.
No, I was not gonna say that.
Yeah, you gotta know that to work Excel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, oof. That's what I count on you for.
But yeah, no. So when we're looking at it, it's golfers move a certain way, baseball players move a certain way. But if you like really boil it down to the bare bones, it's like, okay, your hips move first. If they don't, we need a complete overhaul.
Right.
If that doesn't happen, then like you're gonna have no chance, but it's gonna be very difficult.
Right. Yeah.
After that, there's two very distinct patterns. So when we see, like, especially in baseball, very good bat to ball skill guys tend to go arm before upper body, where like guys with like that are most efficient, get the most out of their swing, go upper body before arm. So it's just not trying to get too detailed into it. But yes, it's the way we move.
Right.
Kinesiology.
Kinesiology. Right. There you go. That's exactly what it is.
Lloyd's just throwing out there a couple terms out there. Keep doing it.
I read some of these books.
That's good.
I like it.
That's right.
But yeah, it's understanding that you need to move a certain way to be as efficient as possible and give yourself the best chance. It doesn't mean that, okay, I'm not this perfect sequence like the way this guy is. That means I can't hit.
Right.
It's not what that means. But it helps us understand how somebody moves and helps them hit better.
It's so funny you say that too, because I for a long time have said, like, hey, it's you turn on the TV, you watch a big league game, right? And you find a player and you're like, man, I'd love to swing like him, right? That everyone does that, right? But you don't realize sometimes if you were to meet this guy, what physically he actually possesses. So the reason why I say that is because, like, just like you said, like, guys that tend to move their hands first are usually good bat to ball guys. Guys that tend to move their body first usually drive the ball, right? But I'm like, if you watch, especially like watching young kids and like working with young kids, you watch them swing, and it's not, you watch them swing and you can't just tell them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. Like, watch what they do and make them better, right? Yeah. Like, if you got a kid that looks like he's a max effort guy, look, unless I'm literally gonna tell you like, hey, you're never gonna drive the baseball. It makes no sense for me to tell you, hey, you just need to use your hands more. That's not you. Right. You get what I'm saying? Like and stuff like that. So it's so funny seeing hearing stuff like
especially when they're younger because they're kids, they're still learning how their body works.
Right.
Like they don't know. Like it's hard for them to control their body. You can't tell them to do something to make them like, hey, I need you to be lighter on your feet, or I need you to make sure you have more weight on your in your glutes, or they don't know that yet.
Right. Well, because it's like going off what you're saying, kind of what J. Mitch was saying, like the way we move. That's what like the first thing we'll do is we'll put them through a movement screening so we can see like what body parts can they move, what's their mobility like. Because like you're saying, you might have a kid like we'll stand up with a kid and I'll try to teach them how to like move their pelvis back and forth.
I mean, I can barely do that. It's hard.
It's a difficult move. Yeah. You take a 10, 11, 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It takes 10 minutes to explain and get them to physically figure out how to do it because they probably never made that move before in their life.
Right.
Hey.
Consciously. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Depends on who they are.
I was about to say it's an early age.
Snapchat will get you in trouble.
Early developer.
That internet's wide open these days.
I know how to move those hips. Oh, yeah. Dr. Johnny says.
I've seen that before.
What you been doing, boy?
We're like with a pro guy, you just make the move yourself, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they can do it.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see kids all the time.
What was that? The big old snort into the microphone.
I know I didn't mean to do that.
Jesus.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm sick, boys. I'm trying recovering.
We gotta incorporate that mute button, man.
Yeah, I'm recovering. I don't know where that came from. Came out of nowhere. Sorry.
Yeah, so, no. So like we'll get kids that come in and they physically can't make a certain movement.
Right.
But yet we're telling them like, "Hey, do this," and it contradicts their ability to make that movement. So I always say that it's like if Mikey and J. Mitch and I, we all like went out to the PMAC and you're like, you gave me a basketball and you said go dunk. First, I'm going to laugh at you. And then second of all, I'm going to get up and maybe touch the net with the ball. And then you're going to get mad at me and be like, dunk, come on. Like that's what I think we're doing right now with youth players.
Or we go to the rec and I tell you, you do a finger roll from the 3-point line. I don't know how that happened, but you did it.
I was a rec all-star.
Yeah. He went and you realized he was in the wrong position. He was like, oh no, I'm too far gone. And he did a finger roll from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I tried to do like the Jordan. I'm like, I mean, I've got pretty big calves.
No, he didn't make it.
Oh, he didn't make it?
No, he didn't hit the rim.
Got rid of it.
Oh, yeah.
Did hit the rim. Did hit the rim.
Hustle effort was off the charts. So.
So obviously I've taken a lot of your time. You have a little bit of time left, or when's your cutoff time?
Like 30 more minutes, 25, 30 minutes.
Love that.
Yeah, sure.
Jay, you have to leave a little bit, like
15.
15? Okay, cool. We talked about the difference between like pro ball and college ball, right? How there's a difference in it. The game's different.
Yeah.
You play here at LSU with us. I'm sure you're kind of, Marucci is a big part of LSU. They give them all the bats and the gloves and stuff. Have these guys come in and out? Have some of the guys here at LSU come in and out of the lab?
Yeah.
And so you watch, like you're kind of like intently watching the games, right? Like for the most part.
I am watching and
evaluating
from afar.
There you go. What do you see with this team? What do you see offensively with this team? What do you see with the swings? Who do you like? Who do you think that, like... Because I mean, I know who I like, but I want to hear from you before I start changing your mind.
No, yeah. So, like, offensively, like, I think they're unbelievable. I think they could be one of the better offenses that's been at this school.
Agreed.
I will say, like, going off some of the previous conversations we've had today, the tests we were talking about, the med ball test and the vertical jump, the highest score we've ever seen for those three combined of any age, including all the MLB All-Stars.
That's probably not going to be surprising.
Dylan Cruz.
Oh, no.
Highest we've ever seen.
What was his vertical?
41 inches.
Oh, shit.
He's got a 41-inch vertical.
On the Vertimax, right? Is that what it's called?
Well, so we actually did that one off our force plates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when you're talking about a guy, so he trains, I know, somewhere in Florida where they've had like a couple slam dunk champions. So, like, if you need to increase your vertical, you might need to go to Orlando. So, he 41-inch vertical and above, like well above, and well above MLB average on the two med ball throws. So
that makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, he's the best player in the game.
Put those two together, put a plus sign between them.
He's hitting 500, so that makes sense.
We've all hit at Alex Box Stadium, at the one they're hitting at, and he can hit it out to all fields. Foul pole to foul pole. Like,
Right.
think about how many guys did we have? Let's think non-Easton Stealth composite bat.
Not even that. Just find out.
But,
Just figure out how many guys it is at that age that it's hard to find that. It's really hard.
No, yeah, like I don't want to like put too much of a label on it, but like it's the full package in terms of a hitter.
Right.
Like the approach, the like lack of. Usually when you have guys with that kind of juice, there's a lot of swing and miss.
Right.
For that much juice, there's not that much swing and miss.
Right.
No, there's
But
not.
that's why he's projected to be 1-1 overall.
Yeah.
We had, I know Jacob Berry came in. Great hitter, both sides. We looked at the bat, trying to help him optimize the bat and all that stuff. And he's another guy that could be a 1-1 guy this year. I mean, you're talking about like as loaded offensively as you can be. One of my favorite guys who I think is going to actually have like a really long career is Cade Doty.
I love K. Doty.
I think that's a kid that
The guy we talk about, nobody talks about him.
I think that's a kid right now that can hit in college and will be able to hit in pro ball. And I think when he gets to pro ball, there will be some tweaks where there's going to be a lot more power that shows up. I think he's a dude.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, he's projected as a first rounder, right? Isn't he?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if he found his way like top 15, top 20.
Oh wow. Love that.
I'm just saying, like, I think he's got that ability.
What about Trey Morgan?
The other thing is, I think he's a high floor guy. Like, he's
yeah. You know what you're going to get.
But I think there's actually like some more power in there than what's going to show in college.
Yeah.
Trey Morgan, and I've talked to Jay a few times, like, and I've seen it, like, obviously on TV, we all watch it, but like that's probably as elite as you're going to get at the college level of, like, we talked about hand-eye coordination, like barrel awareness. Yeah. That is a hitter.
Right.
That is a hitter.
Right.
And the thing I like about the team more than anything is from every year, there's always a guy like in the middle of the lineup that was very power oriented with some swing and miss. I don't think there's like a lot of power, but a swing and miss. I don't think there's a ton of swing and miss with anybody really in the lineup that I see.
No.
I don't know if you guys.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Do you? I like a guy that I've.
Hold on. What do you put it that way? When you say to all these people that you feel like are going to be first round picks, should the expectation I feel like is probably relatively high for LSU baseball Omaha just because of it's probably the landing point.
It's always.
But when you say you have two first overall picks on the same lineup,
I was about to say, like, I played for 3 years, coached for about 4, was obviously paying attention around the program. Like, I struggle to think of years where like there wasn't some sort of like thought that we were going to go to Omaha.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has that as a thing. I think at times we get a little too optimistic about where
LSU baseball is.
Go.
Yes.
I want to like bring down the expectation a hair.
Well, you didn't just do that.
Did I not?
No. You just said you got 2 first overall picks in the same lineup,
Well,
and you're like,
no, the talent's there offensively for sure. I mean, and I'm not. I was around pitchers. This weekend will be very interesting.
Yeah, that's what that's a perfect. That's what I want to get into.
So there's a couple different topics, but this weekend I think is going to tell us a lot about what our expectations should be.
Yeah.
Because Saturday, if I get the days right and the opponents right, Saturday we're probably going to face an elite arm.
Right.
And I'll tell you this right now, like a 1-1 guy, a 1-2, you can have as many 1-1 guys you want. A guy like that's on the mound.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And that's the hard part when you're talking about getting out of a regional and a super regional is you know that when you get to those points, that first game you're facing an elite arm of some kind.
So here's my question. Go ahead. Go.
I was just going to say, just like even to touch on what you were talking about earlier, thinking of like the recent teams that they've had here, thinking of the past teams that have won here, knowing what I've known, like playing baseball and knowing what you know, and like being a catcher too. Like one thing that makes a lineup really, really good is not so much like, hey, we got a bunch of good hitters or hey, we got a couple guys with power. It's literally you can literally say this line's about 6 to 7 deep of he's a really good hitter and he might leave on any pitch.
Right.
Which is, it's so hard to pitch around that inning after inning after inning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like when there was no like real breaks in the lineup where like, hey, look, if we leave this over the plate, he'll hit a single. No, he might leave.
Yeah.
And then the next guy might leave. And the next guy might leave. And
right.
and they're all, and then once you get that gelling and rolling together, it makes a really tough lineup to pitch against and to do it 3 days in a row.
Yeah, where one mistake can change the game.
Yeah.
Well, so here's my question going into the weekend, right? You say we're going to find out how good we are this weekend, which I agree with you. You have Oklahoma on Saturday. Is it Baylor on Friday? Oklahoma on Friday, Texas on Saturday, and Baylor on Sunday. Yeah. Right? So yeah, it's a night game, day game, night game.
Yeah.
Do you hold I know kind of what I think I would do. Do you say, all right, Blake Money's our Friday night guy. He's our ace right now. Do you put him on Saturday against Texas, or do you keep him in his normal Friday night slot?
Keep him there.
Yeah.
I think you keep him there. That's my thought.
Me personally, I'm not a big fan of changing things around until we get to postseason when it matters, and now it's time to let's figure things out here. That's when like we said, everything's off the table. We got to win games.
Right.
This is about establishing a role. Yeah. I think that's what we're still in that phase of, is understanding who's who. Right. Establishing roles. What I honestly, and this could be an interesting take, but
I love interesting takes. Let's go.
I'm very anti midweek stuff, all the stuff going back and forth with all that stuff, and I get it. We've all played midweek games before.
Yeah.
I think midweeks are.
You said today's a little sneaky
today's a
one.
Big sneaky game. You got the Fighting Blake Deans rolling in. I mean, you know how Blake is. There's nothing Blake wants more this season than to win this game.
Yeah. Right.
And
means everything to that program.
Yep.
Everything. And they're going to swing it.
Yeah.
They always do.
Yeah.
These are the types of games, and this is going to be interesting to see, because this is not the game about, hey, here's the guy on the mound, here's his stuff, whatever. This is the game about being present at the game.
This is a legit trap game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last weekend at Louisiana Tech wasn't. That's a legit good game. Yeah. That's a legit good ball club,
right.
too.
And the way the game was, for sure.
This is a trap.
This is a trap game.
These are the games, and I'll never be the guy to be like, hey, you got to win midweek games, yada yada yada. But with the team we have and the way it's constructed, I think it's super important, because if you want to win in the postseason, being at home means more now than it ever has. Because of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because and Blake Money could be a big time Friday night guy. I don't I haven't seen him enough.
He's looked good so far.
He's looked
so far.
Great. But it's it would be it's a whole other thing if for a fact you get to postseason, you got Renato, you got Lang, you got Coleman, you got whoever, you got Nola.
3-4 weeks from now, we might be saying that about him.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is, again, I don't I want to.
But you only have one right now.
Right. But so that's what I'm saying is right now is still time to not jump to conclusions. Don't jump on or off the bandwagon. Just be on the bandwagon. Let's
just stay on the bandwagon.
We all love LSU. Let's just stay there and just analyze it.
Yeah.
Just see what it's about. This is the learning time.
That's the beauty about baseball. Though. You don't have to win every game.
We're not going to win the national championship or not make the postseason because of this weekend.
Right.
No doubt. Win state, but not tonight.
Or because of tonight.
But yeah, but it's